show so out of sight. Blast off now, take flight. Aliens and rockin' tunes, country beats under the moons. Space dust in my boots, all new. Gigolo's hosting soon. Welcome to the galaxy. Radio waves so wild and free. Tune and feel the energy. With Dakota ride the beat. When it's spin to every song.
No, not alone. Probably help if I would actually bring myself up on the stream now, wouldn't it? What is up, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Dakota France, and I am the Intergalactic Gigolo. I hope you are doing it fantastic. I hope you are fantastic. I hope if you're in an area that's been hit with a heat wave like I am, my God. Whew. I hope you're managing to stay cool, because fuck, when I could just go to drive around for more than 10 minutes, I have almost a perfect imprint of the seatbelt from the sweat against my shirt. And that's how I go to show up to work. Thankfully, I'm on overnight, so nobody really gives a crap. Oh, man. Alright, so how is everybody doing? Is everybody doing good? Now, here in the States, some of our younger viewers may be getting ready to head back to school here soon. I know y'all probably not relishing that thought, but as annoying as school can be, there's going to come a time in your life where you're going to want that part of you back. Simplicity of childhood, even if you had something rough, dealing with adult responsibilities, especially with everything going on in the world. There's days I wish I was back in school, but oh well. Even back then, I was always the outsider. Hey, I just dropped the name of the episode in my speech. Well, today is August 3rd, 2024, the date of recording, that is. I do want to follow up with last week's episode, where I got talking about AI, and I revealed that Starlight Amnesia was actually the band, the Bald and Bunkers band, if you will, was actually powered by artificial intelligence. Quite a few of the songs I actually did write the lyrics for, but I used an AI to help produce the rest of the song. There's a couple I even recorded a few bits and threw it in there, but like I said, mainly the idea was to kind of test to see if people noticed, people said anything, create some quality music to help spice things up with productions. And utilizing a name like that would help it to where we could potentially list it on music distribution websites, so that way we can try to gather up a little bit more income for the company, help it get it out there more, things like that. But that was my sole intent. But anyway, y'all probably wondering, well, what's the update on that, Dakota? That seemed like it was pretty straightforward. And I hope y'all not mad. Y'all don't, feel like I purposely tried to, betray it. I'm not gonna lie. I am kind of known for kind of pulling pranks on people, as some of you may have probably figured out. But there comes a lot of time when you go to discuss these certain types of topics, and it kind of goes into what I want to talk about for this episode, where you want to toss some oddities out there into the general public just to see how they would react. There gets to be points where, say, maybe you want to put out a certain picture that might be mistaken as something paranormal caught on camera, just to see how people react. I've done that a couple of times just to see if, basically just to see if anybody actually tried to, call it out. And I don't mean just like little trolls online basically saying, "Ooh, it's fake, you're stupid, blah, 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 blah." See how many people actually try to, analyze it, try to debunk it, and actually give their reasoning behind why they think certain things may be the way they are. That's the type of stuff I want to look for, because those are the people that I honestly have the most faith in when it comes to discussing this type of topic. But I digress. So, music distribution, music generation utilizing AI. let's face it, like I said in the last episode, artificial intelligence isn't going anywhere. How easy it is to use, how accessible it's become, and the quality of materials that's being produced. Hell, you can probably figure from the even just the thumbnail that's attached to this video that was generated purely by AI. And it produces an interesting, a unique kind of look, right? It gives it a better quality. Plus, in my defense, if you say are doing an interview and you have a specific type of guest, if you design things to where it kind of fits with, you know, the guest, it kind of fits their vibe, showcases off some of their work, going that extra mile to make them feel welcome goes a long way. And, I understand the reasoning behind it. It's for ease, so you can just swap things out and go about your day and keep up with production. But some of the templates that are used, to me, to an extent, to me, that feels kind of lazy. But anyway, back to what I was saying in regards to the music. The website I use, I actually linked in the description of the last episode. It's called Suno. You can check it out. I'm not doing it's not any affiliate deal of me mentioning it. I just don't like the gatekeep. If when it comes to these types of situations, if I find something that, works, that makes things look good, produces quality material, is relatively low cost, and I feel could potentially help people, I like to share it. And aside from this AI generation thing, I also do have a bit of an update for you all that I would like to share. And it's an exciting one. It's an exciting one. Some of you may have caught the official announcement video that I put out on the main YouTube channel, but I'm going to announce it here as well, so that way it hits all of our channels. But back to the music thing. I know I'm bouncing around a lot. Some of you may be aware, and I brought this up on the last episode, that these music generation websites, particularly the popular ones like Suno, are being sued by record labels for potential copyright infringement. How is this possible? Independent study groups basically wanting to help promote the ethical use of artificial intelligence tested these AI to try to see how they may have been trained. And based on their results, it was highly likely they could. Excuse me, something in my throat there. Oh, better hydrate, especially with this heat, man. My God. It's supposed to get up to like 103 degrees Fahrenheit here. For those of you internationally that use Celsius, I think it's 40 something degrees. I'm an American. We don't do that math very good. But anyway, Suno AI, this independent research group determined that it was highly likely that copywritten material was used in the training of the AI itself. Suno has released an official response. They said, yeah, we used just about every song we could find to train it, that we could find online. And we used it under fair use. And for those who don't know what fair use is, it's essentially a legal doctrine that allows people to use under limited amounts. There are certain criteria it has to fit in order to actually use fair use as a legal defense. But it allows anyone to use limited amounts of copywritten material in unique ways for other productions. Usually, if it's an educational piece, if it's meant for schoolwork, there's a little bit more leniency there. Or if it's critical, it's kind of a critic review situation. But you can use it also in other materials, where, like how, say, you go onto YouTube and you find videos of people talking about how, say, well, Deadpool and Wolverine, that's still big in theaters right now. Let's see how different variants of Wolverine play into it, or the stories behind revealed characters, or what came true. Situations like that where people will likely use clips from the movie itself or the trailers or whatever they can get their hands on, basically. Not necessarily have to credit the original authors and still be able to use the material without restriction. That's essentially what fair use is. Basically, if you can put a spin on it that uses the material in a unique way, you could probably get away with it. So, this being used as a legal defense by the startup company Suno is very interesting. And I think, with, again, it's my stance that because of how well done all these artificial intelligence programs are made, how accessible they are, the ease of use, and how you can use a lot of them for free, it should be worth noting that there's a lot of uncharted territory. So, nevertheless, it's a good idea to keep an eye on things, especially if you're in a content creator scenario and the use of these programs. Well, it's a good idea to keep an eye on it just to make sure that you won't be affected by any legal ramifications. In most cases, if you didn't make a whole lot of money on what you did, you probably won't get in too much trouble, but nevertheless. Or for those who come into this from the paranormal, the supernatural side, obviously, the use of AI is going to be used as a go to defense on behalf of skeptics and trolls alike, trying to say, oh, that's not real, that's AI, blah, 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 blah. Being knowledgeable of what is out there, you don't necessarily. Now, maybe you want to decide to take a course on machine learning. I do believe Google actually offers that for free. You can get certifications in artificial intelligence that way. But being aware of how this stuff works, how well it works, and how accessible it is, you can conduct little experiments yourself to see if the materials can actually, if those websites can actually be used to fake evidence of paranormal activity, whether it's ghosts, cryptids, UFOs, whatever the case may be. Because think about it. It's going to be very hard to utilize AI to fake a ghost. Now, you may be able to use the voice generation ones to create fake EVPs or electronic voice phenomena. That would be fairly easy. But as far as telling an AI to create a ghost, chances are you're probably going to get one that looks one of those weird sheet ones. You know what I mean? As far as cryptids, where there's actual photos that could be used to train these things because there is some sort of physicality to this phenomenon, yeah, there's a good chance that you could recreate, pictures of like the Loch Ness monster or Bigfoot or situations like that. UFOs are a little bit different from what I've experimented with and from what I've utilized in a lot of my projects. You get a lot more of the cliche flying saucer appearances. You don't get some of the more exotic shapes that you can sometimes see, or even just the bright lights in the sky. But I digress. It is important that we become aware of what may be used to deceive us. Like I said in the episode last week, even the enemy is a fan of illusion. CIA literally has, you can literally get your hands on the an old CIA manual that utilized magic tricks for espionage. You can easily just buy that online these days. It's because it's so old. And discussions like this need to happen. And it's important that not only do we listen to other voices and come together as a community, but it's also important you investigate yourself and tell your own story. Get the discussion going so that way the people who are still trying to sort through all the BS, all the chaos, can try to see for themselves what is real. Now, Bald and Bonkers Network LLC, part of the goal behind the company is to try to create a platform that allows people to do that. I know, like I said in previous episodes and installments, that the company veered off course. It did. And as CEO and founder of the company, that fault's on me. And we're working on adjusting that. We're working on getting back on track, getting things to happen, making this, just making it happen. So, what have I done? Bald and Bonkers Network LLC has literally acquired and started construction on its very own music podcast distribution platform. Bald and Bonkers will now have its, for lack of a better word, Bald and Bonkers will have its own Spotify. Isn't that interesting? Yes, it is true. It is under construction. You may see fundraisers to come be posted up on social media links and all that to try to help raise funds to help build these platforms. Because not only do we have this, which is going to be called Bonkers Broadcasting Network, we're also going to have Bonkers TV Plus, our own video distribution platform, our own video streaming service. And once things have been settled in appropriately, I don't want to give a timetable just yet on when all this will happen. But when everything is set, when everything is ready, everything has been tested, we will open up the platforms for people to join and submit their own content. And I would like to try to set something up to help people make a little extra money from their work. I would. Because, one, let's face it, it's hard to keep up with content creation, especially if you have a day job or you have a kid or this or that. It can be hard. As with inflation prices these days, having a little bit of extra income is probably a wise thing for everyone. It sucks, but that's just the world we live in. And I want to cater these platforms to the outsiders of the group, the ones that don't get so caught up in everything that's going on that they go off on their own adventures and they find some truly amazing stuff. And that's actually what I wanted to talk about fully for this episode. And that's why it's called what it's the title of this episode is Always the Outsider. What inspired this? Well, as I was pushing out last week's episode of Intergalactic Gigolo onto all the streaming platforms, I had discovered on one of the Spotify locations that there was a comment left about on one of the episodes that I hadn't seen that apparently it's just been sitting there for about a year. Yeah, Dakota's kind of bad as far as trying to check up on everything, but I digress. And this individual is, if they're still listening, they're probably going to try to say, well, Dakota, you meant talking like this. Basically the comment was that this individual said that they liked the show, but felt that it had shifted more into focusing on retaliation against mean comments, again, being left by people they will probably never meet in person. And that a couple others had started to do the same thing. And they're right. That's what it started to evolve to. I'm not proud of it. But speaking from the content creator point of view, there's aspects of this where you put in when you actually are putting yourself into these shoes, putting yourself out there, there's aspects of your mind, your body, your soul that come into play. And when people are in a position where they feel like taking things out on total random strangers, that can affect people more than they realize. And they think, oh, just because it's online, it doesn't matter. It's not going to hurt nobody. Yeah, it does. Because anybody who puts themselves out there, or at least any of the genuine people out there, and what I mean by that is the ones that, they're very heartfelt, they're very considerate of others, they're people you want to have around. There's a story behind what makes them that way. And more often than not, it can be hard to tell. Whatever that story may be. Maybe it's a situation they dealt with child abuse, or it's an exotic situation like mine where you're scared shitless because you were taken by, all you knew was that you're being taken by something that wasn't human. You went through something and you kind of get into this mentality that no one's going to understand, no one's going to listen, people are going to think you're crazy, yada, yada, yada. There's a lot of mental turmoil that's already going on. So when comments like that come up, To the person trying to tell the story, it can feel like that person, you're already walking along the edge and some asshole just came by to push you off. Throws you off balance. And obviously, in the heat of the moment, the reaction you feel, you're probably going to want to curse somebody out. These feelings, they're a natural reaction. They're not very high vibration or whatever term you want to use, but you know, if I'm walking along a cliff, just trying to enjoy the view, and some asshole just tries to push me, yeah, I'm going to be a little ticked. But I digress. A lot of these individuals have had their own hardships, and in many ways, the reason why they're always kind of considered the outsider, they don't really, they may be real nice, real sweet people, but they don't really interact with large groups often, is because dealing with those interactions can be mentally draining, especially if everybody's getting riled up. A quote I always use to kind of describe things, it's in relation to mob mentality, but it comes from Tommy Lee Jones' character in the first Men in Black movie. The person is smart. People are dumb, irrational animals. Whenever there's a mob mentality factor, people tend to get into this tribalistic notion and they go after anybody who does not fit in the criteria of what should be done. In a lot of ways, that's just not right. It's mentally draining, and if you don't catch yourself before you get, if you were to get involved and don't end up catching yourself, you could end up destroying a lot. You can destroy relationships, you can destroy any work you've put into building something. Everyone's goes to gush about the fucking Kardashians, yet there's some major cataclysm going on in another part of the world that's given no attention because everybody wants to focus on the latest celebrity gossip. But for a lot of the part, people are getting better about spotting the BS. And you can tell that a lot of major elites are freaking out because they notice, hey, the dumb idiots, they're getting smarter. And while here's also another thing though. It should be considered proof of how much the outsiders are truly capable of accomplishing when a lot of the criteria for someone who can commit horrible, heinous atrocities against their fellow people. And I'm talking about the serial killers, the school shooters, the abusers, all that. People capable of doing some severe and heavy damage to others. It should be shown that it should speak volumes the amount of potential these individuals have to change lives. And just follow me for a sec, okay? I know there's probably some of you people in the audience probably on Dakota, where you going, but let's just work with me here. It should speak volumes that more often than not, a lot of the traits behind some of the most successful CEOs are in fact the same exact traits as some of the most horrific criminals. And when it comes to psychology, how they're brought up, all that, there is so much overlap. It should speak volumes about the potential the outsiders have, because a lot of these people, because the way their brain works, they're trying to look for other outside sources of thrills that just don't work. They may not, they may in fact not fully understand why quote unquote normal people react to, say, like celebrities and things like that the way they do. And they go off because they want to do something else. They don't want to become obsessed with that. And they're the ones that often become some of the greatest artists, the best singers, the funniest comedians, whatever the situation may be. I bring this up because one thing that honestly disturbs me the most is how easy people get wrapped into the drama of the mob, the mob mentality. This is the basis for a lot of claims of certain groups being cult-like, because it is this blind admiration, the following, the obsessive behavior, the worship of certain people because they were in an almost religious sort of way. This can foster some very dangerous behavior, and more often than not, the individuals that are at the center of the focus, they had nothing to do with it. It's people in the audience trying to find some source of identity, some validation to their own beliefs that twists the masses. And this sort of manipulation is so well documented. It is a well-known tactic that if you want to destroy someone, you get in there, you incite the crowd. Now, you can tell who's obviously not part of a greater agenda, whether or not they actually do research and try to pick things apart. They just go off of whatever's said in the moments, try and do basically twist people. These tribalistic notions are the distraction. It's the oldest trick in the book. Divide and conquer. And you don't even have to force the division. You can put it out there in the media to help influence. Because every stimuli you take in about your day to day, with the food you eat, the people you sleep with, the television programs you watch, the podcasts you listen to, every single one of those things affects how your brain is wired. And it has been found that applying certain stimuli, applying certain electrical signals, certain frequencies can actually, how do I put this? It can actually trigger more accurate and desired outcomes, to where if the technology is developed enough, you can essentially control someone like you have that you have a remote control in your hand for that person. You can make them do whatever you want as easy as flipping channels on the television. And it is scary how easy that mentality comes up. And as far as usually why the outsiders aren't given much thought unless they do something major, is because they're such in the minority that they're not seen as a threat. But here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen, and it's something that I want to reiterate to people. It's a quote by Chadwick Boseman's character in Captain America Civil War. 2 people in the room can get more work done than 100. Then his father comes along saying, unless you're moving a piano. But the work of 2 can outweigh the work of 100. Easily. Focus. What is it you want in this life? Focus on it. Show your determination. Become just a little bit sociopathic about it. Because that's the underlying thing that a lot of the most successful CEOs, entrepreneurs, and some of the most dangerous serial killers have in common is sociopathic traits. And a lot of times when you're in these fields, you come across narcissists. Sociopathy is the only thing that trumps narcissism. It's the only thing that puts them in their place. Because the second a narcissist shows that they cannot manipulate you, they can't trigger an emotional response, they freak out, they shut down. And in a world that's being dominated by that sort of mentality, narcissists with huge egos taking advantage of the fact that they have influence over the lives of so many people, the sociopaths need to rise. The outsiders need to come together because they're the ones that often see the patterns. We cannot force the crowds to see. We can't force them to flip. We see a lot of people doing it. I had someone ask me the other day. They said, Dakota, you've had a lot of strange experiences. You've dealt with a lot of this stuff. How do you get people to listen to you, to believe you? I'm trying to tell my family about all this and that and blah, 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 blah. They had a situation going on, and they're trying to tell their families, and the families didn't believe them. And I said, the fact that you're forcing it is the problem. Your behavior right there is the problem. Because if someone's going to come around trying to literally shove something down your throat, chances are you're going to get a little pissed. You're going to be like, hey, what the fuck are you doing, man? People trying to force those interactions, trying to force the people to follow them, that triggers pushback. It triggers a defense mechanism. But if you're just out there telling your story, making things happen, regardless of the shit that gets thrown at you, and I mean the absolute fuckloads, that's what gets people to listen. That's what gets people to follow you. And sure, a little charm, little charisma, maybe a sexy accent can help along. but not being afraid to show who you are and showing it just because. Not for any goal, not for any reason, but showing who you are just because shines through and will help move the masses in ways like you will never imagine. And unfortunately, when the crowds become big enough, you will find those people that whose level of parasocial interaction skills gets to be at such a devotion, such a religious expert that you're probably going to be called out as a potential cult. Something I would honestly like to do for upcoming interviews of the Bald and Bonkers show is actually talk to a cult specialist, someone who deals in trying to break people from these cults, trying to rescue them, understand how they work and all that. I want to have that discussion because I think it should provide some valuable insights to everyone who tries to use that claim against potentially new age targets. Because again, like I said, you bring that information forward, you show that. It may seem kind of irritating at some point where if you're not able to provide physical evidence, you won't get a lot of people to back you, but that's just how the world works. You show how it's actually done, you can shut down a lot of people. Show that you are not going to be flipped easily, that you will do the work yourself, and you will be amazed at what comes through. And the people that stick by you through that, normally, they're the real ones you want to have around. Those are my thoughts for the day, ladies and gentlemen. I'll see you next time. My name is Dakota Franson, Intergalactic Gigolo. Be sure to follow all Bald and Bonkers related pages. You can find more information on the website baldandbonkers.net, which I really do need to get updated. To find out more information about Bonkers TV, how you can take part, the anthology Why We Are Supernatural is underway. It's currently being formatted in our systems and will be released soon. There's been a few updates with our printing partners, so we're kind of having to relearn a few things, but good things are coming, ladies and gentlemen. Once I get a good, schedule, get enough good recordings of Intergalactic Gigolo, we'll bring out a new Francis Files, and there will also be a scheduling form available on baldandbonkers.net for you to accept interviews for the Bald and Bonkers show. My name is Dakota Franson. I am the Intergalactic Gigolo. You're going to want to see what comes next.
Jamming all night long. Neon lights where we belong. Dance to cosmic throng. From the hills of Tennessee to the Milky Way and beyond. Turning lives and spirits free. Dakota's rocking on. Whoa, whoa. From the hills of Tennessee to the Milky Way and beyond. Turning lives and spirits free. Dakota.